The Tennessee Titans defense got revenge on day 2 of mandatory minicamp, and I'm breaking down everything you need to know on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of Locked On Titans is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Look, it's Tennessee Titans Mandatory Minicamp 2025, Episode 2, The Defense Strikes Back. Jeffery Simmons, Femi Oladejo making plays. We'll talk about everybody on the defense who stepped up, but Cam Ward had his moments as well. So we'll talk about what the offense did on Wednesday, and then we'll finish things out with some guys who I think just need more discussion. We'll talk about the punt returner position, talk more about Femi Oladejo, Chim Dike, and Van Jefferson, who could be a sleeper on this offense. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. It may be the off season, but there is no off season for Locked On Titans. I'm going to have a recap of tomorrow's mandatory minicamp practice. Also, next week, we're going to take a look at all of the biggest stories and biggest questions coming out of mandatory minicamp before we have the summer break until training camp. But with all that being said, the defense gets its revenge on the offense on day 2, tying up the proverbial score, 1-1 between the offense and the defense. So remember, yesterday, Cam Ward went crazy. 20 for 21. The offense was on point. He completed 18 straight passes, 14 of 14 in the team period, 11 on 11s. The offense was just fantastic, and it sounds like the defense thought about that all night long before they hit the practice field on Wednesday, because it was a totally different story, according to all of the reports. The defense certainly won the day, tied things up, as I said, and it was the pressure that the defense was getting on Cam Ward and the Titans quarterbacks all day long that made the biggest difference. And no surprise, the Titans worked on third and long situations for the offense and the defense. And when it's third and long, you can dial up the pressure. You can get in the quarterback's face. You can make it tough on him and see what happens. And the defense definitely had their way. But it's not just that the defense bounced back here, okay? Because that's very, very important. But it was the players that were involved in the defensive effort that get you so excited. So first and foremost, the defense bouncing back is critical. We wouldn't want things to be too one-sided. Like, remember a couple of years ago when Andre Dillard was starting at left tackle, and every single day it was the defense. The defense were like, this is going to be a dominant defensive front. This is going to be an incredible pass rush. And it wasn't really that. You know what I mean? It was just the offensive line was that bad. So you don't want to see one side of the ball absolutely dominating over and over and over again. A good football team with a competent offense and a good defense is going to go back and forth. They're going to battle back and forth, different days, different moments, different momentum. That's what it's all about. That's what you truly want to see. And I talked about this before mandatory minicamp even started, that I don't expect one side of the ball to dominate every time, or I want Cam Ward to play great, but there are going to be ups and downs throughout the season, and this is why the defense should have their wins. The defense should have their days where they're on fire, they're shutting it down, they're flying around, they're doing things. If it wasn't that, and if the Tennessee Titans offense with a bunch of rookies and a new offensive line was dominating the Titans defense every day, that would not be a good thing. So overall, great that the defense was able to bounce back, have some success here. That's what you want to see, the give and take of the offseason, ones-on-ones. But again, the players involved here. Jeffery Simmons. I will continue to say how critically important it is that Jeffery Simmons is out there with his teammates and out on the field. And it's funny that some people can admit it's very important that Jeffery Simmons is out there. And then also not be able to say, man, it would have been nice if Jeffery Simmons would have been out there a little bit earlier, but bygones be bygones, water under the bridge. As they say, Jeffery Simmons is out on the field and he is making plays. Could have been a multiple sack day with 2 sacks, had pressure in the backfield, was barking at Cam Ward, barking at the offense, keeping them on their toes, batted down a pass at the line of scrimmage as well against Will Levis. So Jeffery Simmons is just making it happen. All right, just had a great day. He's in great shape, like we talked about. Dropped 20 pounds. He's 301, and you could tell a difference looking at him moving around. He looks slimmer. He looks quicker. He looks faster. You can tell. So, big day for Jeffery Simmons. Headbutted Cam Ward at one point in time in the middle of the field when they were going at it. Sounded like it was, Teron Davenport was the one who reported the headbutt. Sounded like it was cordial. It wasn't like, they were like, really looking to fight each other in their headbutting, but it's a competitive environment. They're jawing back and forth, trash talking, representing their side of the ball. I love hearing that. So Big Jeff making a big impact right away, mandatory minicamp, and then Femi Oladejo. I'm going to talk about Femi more at the end of the show, but let me just tell you this. Every time we hear about one of these practices, every time we hear someone talk about Femi Oladejo, whether it be a coach, a teammate, anything, it just gets me more and more optimistic for what he can be right away. He made multiple plays in the backfield, multiple plays throughout the practice, had what would have been a sack on Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon, the undrafted free agent tackle out of Florida. Had a long arm into J.C. Latham's chest that pushed him back, according to a report, and disrupted a play and caused an incompletion. Maybe would have turned into a sack eventually. So disruption in the backfield, a sack, disruption that causes an incompletion. And then I also saw that Buck Rising reported Femi dropped back into a zone into the flat and made a pass breakup on Van Jefferson as well and looked incredibly fluid. I think I saw, you can tell that he was an off-ball linebacker because he moves like it. That versatility, to me, Femi Oladejo can be Harold Landry on steroids. Like Harold Landry on super soldier serum. That's what Femi Oladejo can be for this defense. Versatility. And on multiple occasions, like Teron Davenport said, that dude Femi gets off the ball well. Like everybody is talking about how fast and powerful Femi Oladejo looks out there. Not only that, but Cody Barton on blitzes. The Titans defense blitzed a lot. Cody Barton on blitzes, getting into the backfield, getting pressures. Arden Key getting pressure in the backfield, and then more pass breakups at the line of scrimmage. Jeffery Simmons had one, but Tavondre Sweat pushing the pocket, knocking down a ball. I think I saw a report that said Draymond Jones got one down as well. Draymond Jones had a lot of pop at the practice on Wednesday before practice, the interviews and stuff like that. I heard a lot about Draymond Jones, but the team finished practice with the 2-minute drill, and the Titans defense wiped the offense off the map. Cam Ward, we'll get into Cam Ward's performance, but he had multiple plays in a row where he had to throw the ball away because there was pressure in the backfield. Cam Ward's group, the first team offense, did not get points in the 2-minute drill. They weren't able to do anything, and Jeffery Simmons was very happy about that. He ended the 2-minute drive and ended the practice for first team with a sack. Jeffery Simmons making an impact. The defense strikes back. We're going to talk about what the offense did, though, because it wasn't all bad. And Cam Ward might have had his best play of the entire offseason so far. Today's episode is brought to you by the Skylight Calendar. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbling plans on the fridge, overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs your existing calendars like Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders for everyone, all in one easy-to-see place. And when I say easy to see, I'm not kidding. It's a 15-inch HD screen. Anybody can see it. Anybody can read it, from grandma all the way down to the baby. It's very, very clear, very nice screen. And one of my favorite features is everybody in your house can have their own color. So it's so easy to look at the 15-inch HD beautiful screen, see, oh, that's a purple appointment at this time. I know that's for them and them, and there's overlap. It just makes it so easy to keep everything organized. Right now, Skylight is offering my listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's SKYLIGHTCAL.com/NFL. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about the defense as a whole, striking back, Big Jeff, Femi Oladejo making plays. We got some more players on the defense to talk about as well, but I want to get into the offense for a little bit because make no mistake about it, the defense won the day on Wednesday for the Titans. No doubt there. But the offense had some moments, and Cam Ward, again, had what might have been his best play of the offseason program so far. Now, before we get into it, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow where I break down the final day of mandatory minicamp, figure out who won the offense or defense, who's going to win this mandatory minicamp battle, and it's the last time we'll see the Titans out on the field until the end of July. So you're definitely not going to want to miss everything that happened at practice on Thursday. But Cam Ward, at one point in time during practice, according to Teron Davenport, was at the line of scrimmage. All right, at the line of scrimmage, 3rd and long. They've been practicing 3rd and long, all practice long. At the line of scrimmage, looks around, Titans defense starts to inch up, starts to creep up. It's a blitz, ladies and gentlemen. It is a blitz. 3rd and long, blitz is coming. Cam Ward looks around. Check, check. Audibles. And then fires a strike downfield, drops it in a bucket to Calvin Ridley for what would have been a 50-plus yard touchdown. Boom! I love seeing that. And think, this happened in the middle of practice, closer towards the end of practice. So Cam Ward had been seeing these blitzes all practice long and identifying what the defense was doing. And then he was able to say, all right, I've been seeing you do this all practice long. You've been giving me heck. Really held myself back on that one. Just went with the double hockey sticks. But he adjusted, he read it, and made a huge play. 50-yard bomb to Calvin Ridley. And that was clearly the best play of the day. He had a back shoulder throw to Io Manor and 7-on-7. Hit Ridley on that 2-minute drill that we talked about to finish practice. He hit Calvin Ridley early on to get it going. Hit Calvin Ridley again on that drive before it stalled out ultimately. And the defense won the day. Again, Jeffery Simmons sack to end the 2-minute drill, 1v1s. But during 7s and other teamwork with 3rd down drills, hit Xavier Restrepo over the middle 2 times. Was able to find, again, Io Manor. He found Van Jefferson throughout the day. And I'm going to talk about some of these individual players towards the end, but I do want to focus on this Calvin Ridley connection. So Calvin Ridley had a drop early in practice, came back, had 3 catches on the day, was making plays, available to all of the quarterbacks. Will Levis had a very good completion to Calvin Ridley on a corner route deep down the field. Had another completion deep down the field to James Prochet. Will Levis's group, the second team, did actually end up getting into field goal range because he completed a deep pass to James Prochet. So good for Will Levis. Continue battling. I hope the rest of the NFL is paying attention, baby. Look at Will Levis. Look at Will Levis. He's having a pretty good camp. He's doing pretty good. He's backup, quality backup. You could still develop him. Come on, folks. Come get Will Levis. But either way, we saw some good moments, and we saw some of the players that we want to see make plays. But overall, Cam Ward had a couple of fumbles on the day. He fumbled one while he was in the pocket. They tried to run a reverse toss to Chim Dike that ended up on the ground. Cedric Gray actually recovered that one. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Cam Ward had multiple throwaways, According to Jim Wyatt, he had some throws that he either overshot the guy or they were a little bit behind. So it was not the best practice for Cam Ward. It was not the cleanest practice for the offense overall. Again, the defense won the day. But as I talked about in the opening segment and I talked about last week, you want to see this back and forth. It's not going to be completely linear where Cam Ward just gets better and better and better and better and better and better every day. I would compare it to golf. It's not like you're just going to you shoot a 55 on 9 holes. You shoot a 100 and just every time you play golf the rest of your life, you're going to get better every single time. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So, and most people's development is not linear. It just doesn't go straight up like a mountain. You know what I mean? So Cam Ward is going to have those plateaus, those jagged parts, and where you just climb eventually, and it happens over time. So this is what we expected, and again, I would be super down on the defense if they just got absolutely cooked like they did yesterday over and over again. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want to see that. So the offense was not sharp, was not clean. A lot of it had to do with it's third down. They're practicing third and long. Third and long is a difficult situation for the offense all the time anyways, especially when the defense knows and they can bring that pressure all the time. So tough circumstances, but these are the type of days that Cam Ward needs to have. And these are the type of days, honestly, that I want to see the Titans defense have. The connection with Calvin Ridley being something that showed up even on a bad day. Even on a bad day. The connection with Calvin Ridley showing up, that's critical. That's critical for the Titans. Now, again, I do want to talk about Van Jefferson for a minute. I want to get into some more of the individual players as we get towards the end of the episode. But Van Jefferson continues to get rave reviews, quite honestly. His speed, his size. Remember, he's 6'1", near 6'2", is a speed player, good movement skills, and really what I've heard people raving about with Van Jefferson is the versatility. I've talked about the X wide receiver position for the Titans and why I'm so high on Manor, because the Titans don't really have a pure X wide receiver. And I said the only other people on the team who have the size and ability to really even try to play that is Van Jefferson and Treylon Burks. And since Treylon Burks is a ghost and we can't count on him and talk about him, it's just Van Jefferson and Manor as far as I'm concerned. And Manor is a rookie at the end of the day. And I have said I think that the starting 3 wide receivers that go out there in week 1 will be Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, and Van Jefferson. Because Van Jefferson can do anything. Van Jefferson could play as a big slot. Van Jefferson could be your Z wide receiver, which is where I think his natural position would be. He could play the X wide receiver position if you need to because he's big enough to do it. He could be your speed vertical X guy. Van Jefferson is being overshadowed, rightfully so. Rightfully so. He's being overshadowed by the young guys, by Manor, by Restrepo, by Dike. And we'll talk about Dike in just a second. He's another guy. Him and Jefferson are having similar impacts, I think. But you just see it, all these different Hey, Van Jefferson looks good out there. Van Jefferson's moving around. I think Van Jefferson is maybe going to be more important than people realize. I am not going to overhype Van Jefferson, but I think he can play an important role early on for the Tennessee Titans as these rookies do come along. And his versatility and the ability to play any position makes him very valuable, and it makes him very helpful as well, especially considering that, Xavier Restrepo is slot only, and, Manor, probably not going to be a guy you want to play in the slot or play as a Z. Like, just keep him as the X receiver. Like, there are guys on the Titans roster right now that I don't think have as much versatility. So having guys like Van Jefferson who do have a ton of versatility, I think that's key. So developing those connections with Calvin Ridley, Van Jefferson, Tyler Lockett was still just doing the jugs machine, not involved in practice. They're taking him slow. Maybe there was an injury. I don't know. But either way, just even though in a down day for the offense, I love hearing about the connections that Cam Ward is still cultivating and some of these guys that continue to show up. But let's talk about 2 rookies I'm so hype about. Femi Oladejo, Chim Dike, who's getting similar love as Van Jefferson. Also, we got to talk about the punt returner situation because there's a lot to unpack there as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs, and the NBA finals, really, are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before a tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Me personally, I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to win the finals. I'm going to back them every game. Money line, spread, doesn't matter. I like the bets where you could bet first half winner and second half winner. I love the Thunder in those situations. I think SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is going to win finals MVP, so I'm going over on his points every single chance that I can. If you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down day 2 of Tennessee Titans mandatory minicamp. The defense got their revenge, but Cam Ward still had his moments. Now I want to dive into some of the individual players that just deserve more discussion. Before we get into it, do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camp gets closer, moves are being made. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. But diving in here, Femi Oladejo. Yesterday, left practice early. I was concerned. Femi needs development. Femi needs reps. Desperately so. More than anybody else on the defense, Femi Oladejo needs reps. He cannot afford to miss time injured. But luckily, doesn't seem like it's very serious. Brian Callahan said that it's not very serious, and Femi Oladejo was back out on the field, and clearly he was making plays. Couple of things that stand out to me. Again, every single report, every person that was there that talked about Femi Oladejo said the way that he jumps off the line of scrimmage, his speed, his burst off the line of scrimmage, insane. And that is half the battle right there. Right? If you can win that battle and get an advantage because you are the quicker guy off the line of scrimmage, that's huge. And for a guy that needs technical refinement with his hands and his pass rush moves, who hasn't done a ton of that before because he was an off-ball linebacker, for a guy in that situation, winning everywhere else other than the technical aspects is critical. That's why him getting off the line of scrimmage the way that he does, him using his power and just putting his hands in a guy's chest and driving him back, those things are going to be so critically important for Femi Oladejo early on because he's not going to be some savant with his handwork like he's Danico Autry or Jarrell Casey or something. He's not going to be on that level yet. He's got to use his physical athletic gifts to win right away as he develops his technique. And it sounds like he's already doing that. Again, you could say, oh, he had a sack against Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, the offensive tackle from Florida, undrafted free agent. Say, oh, that's an undrafted free agent. Guy's not even going to make the team, so what? But he had a great pressure on J.C. Latham. And this isn't the first time in Titans offseason practices that we've heard Femi might have got the best of Latham on a rep. So I love hearing that. Also, you hear about the versatility, like I said, dropping back in coverage and making plays. Femi Oladejo is by far the biggest, well, I won't say by far, but I would say out there right now, Femi Oladejo is the biggest X factor on defense. No doubt in my mind. The difference in what the Tennessee Titans defense will be if Femi is just okay and a rotational player versus what the Tennessee Titans defense could be if Femi is awesome right away, it's a big difference in my opinion. It's a massive difference in my opinion if Femi can come in right away and be an impact player. And that's not my expectation for him. You could say, oh, he's a second-round pick, but this is a team that went 3-14 last year. It's a rebuilding football team, and Femi is a player who barely has played at the position that he's going to play on defense in the NFL. He was an off-ball linebacker. So everything about Femi's development says slow down. Slow your expectations down. Don't expect too much too early. But man, it's hard to not get excited when you see everything that people say about Femi and how impressive that he is. So cannot wait to see his development continue. Happy he was back out on the field. Glad there's nothing serious. Chim Dike, another rookie who we must discuss. Rave reviews. I forget who said it, but that Chim Dike is probably going to be way more important to the Titans offense this year than people realize right now. Like Van Jefferson, he's a guy with size, 6'1", and speed. The combination of that is not something the Titans have a lot of. Okay? So, and quite honestly, you want as many guys as you can get. So Chim Dike, not only with the size and the speed, but the versatility. Dike is another guy who's been able to move around, and I think it was Nick Holes talked about how, he's been able to absorb everything. He knows what he's doing everywhere. Chim Dike, if he can come in right away and play all three positions at wide receiver, slot, Z, and X, that's the plan for him. If you could have Restrepo, who is a clear slot-only guy, and you could have Io Manor, who could be your X, and then you have Dike, who could be a Z. Now you have a really good group of guys to build around, and whether Chim Dike is your starting Z or your backup Z, whether, they're your top three wide receivers on the depth chart or not, which they shouldn't be long-term. The Titans will need an alpha number one wide receiver. But if those three guys are staples on your depth chart and you know that you have somebody that you can count on, and at all three spots you have somebody that you can count on, what a great start for the Titans rookie class of 2025. Think about what we're talking about here. So Chim Dike needs to get more love. He's not as exciting as Io Manor and Restrepo. That's a fact. But speaking of the versatility, top punt returner, Chim Dike. You also have Xavier Restrepo punt returning. You have Jaquan Jackson punt returning. You have James Prochet punt returning. Prochet had a very good practice. Had 3 catches on the day. The deep catch from Will Levis and 2-minute drill. Had a couple of other plays. Good day from James Prochet. He's an interesting player to watch. A veteran who not a lot of people are counting on to make this roster, and I'm not either, but we'll see. Also worth mentioning, and we'll probably talk about this more next week when I have just more time to dive into everything that we're hearing here. But Cedric Gray recovered a fumble. James Williams, good day in coverage. The young linebackers, got to keep an eye on them. I don't think it's all positive, but still nice to hear some good things. We'll probably, again, there's so much meat on the bone that we're going to chew through after these, because I cover practice every day, the practice that happened. There's not a lot of time to go back and talk about the day before, or, talk about the day ahead or things of that. So next week, we're really going to have some fun conversations about what we saw during mandatory minicamp. But I'm going to be back with you guys tomorrow to break down the final day of mandatory minicamp. Who is going to win the ultimate battle? The offense or the defense? Let me know down below. Hit me up on Twitter at TicTacTitans. Let me know your answer. But that's going to do it for me today. Folks, as always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.